بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to another episode of Sending the Community with me, Hafiz Mohammad Umar. And in today's show, I am delighted to be joined by Lily Staniford. Lily is the Sport and Inclusion Mentor at Blues Foundation, which is part of Bedford Blues Rugby Club. Welcome to you, Lily.
Hiya.
Hi, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning. Listeners, if you're just tuned in, you will know that each week we try to raise profile of different elements of special education needs and disabilities, and we look at also opportunities available for young people and adults with special needs and disabilities in accessing their local community. And part of that is also looking at sport and inclusion. And we've done some work on disability cricket in the past at the beginning of the cricket season, and today we are going to be focusing on um, rugby and other sports that are available to young people with special needs and disabilities. So, Lily, tell us a bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, so my name is Lily Staniford. I am a sport and inclusion mentor at Bedford Blues Foundation. I've been there for probably about 6 months now. I've done some previous work at different rugby clubs in the kind of same sector. I also play rugby myself, so I play in the championship, which is the second tier level of women's rugby. So I find that quite competitive level of sport, and it really enjoy sport in general.
Brilliant. And your role as a sport and inclusion mentor, what does that mean then?
So really it's just getting children in the community involved in sport that maybe don't have those opportunities given to them like some other children do. Maybe children that have had maybe more of an unfortunate upbringing or in a lower income household or anything like that. We get them involved in sport or we do interventions with them if they're not getting on so well at school to just really help them and put them on the right track.
And how does that work in practice? Do you go into schools during school time? Do you bring the children out of school to Blues Foundation? How does that work?
Yeah, so we run quite a few different programs. Some of our programs we will go into the school, we will provide PE lessons, after school clubs, etc., things like that. But then we have other programs which are more of our outreach programs. So stepping away from the rugby side of things, we'll bring groups of children that maybe are getting excluded from school or going through a bit of trouble. We'll bring them to Bedford Blues and we'll do our intervention program. We get them playing sport. We do some life skills stuff with them. And we've seen like a massive improvement in their behavior and how they get on with their confidence and things like that. It's like really rewarding work and really good to see.
And how are those students selected then? Do they get referred from the school, parents, GPs? How does that work?
So the school will refer them to us. And then obviously like their parents will go through like the referral forms and things like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, so usually it's the school select them. If we're going into schools for after school clubs or PE lessons, that will be like a big group. So it's usually like a whole class or a whole year group. But
Mhm.
the stuff at Bedford Blues is referrals.
Mhm. And what sort of class sizes or group sizes do you work with at the Blues Foundation?
So we probably won't ever get a group more than 12, 10 or 12 when we're working closely, because then it gives us chances to have one-to-ones with these students and really like make them feel that they are wanted in school and that we want them to improve. Because a lot of these children just think that no one at school cares about them. Maybe they're not getting the grades that they want, so they feel a little bit left out and let down. So the way we work with such a small group, it really lets us focus in on them and make them feel wanted, and then the improvements come from there.
Mm. And what kind of age groups do you work with?
So literally all school age we can work with. Mainly it's like transitional stuff. So either they're going into their GCSEs in the next few years, or they're transitioning into bigger like secondary school or bigger school. Because obviously that can be really overwhelming for some children, especially if they have additional needs such as autism or ADHD. That can be really overwhelming for them. So where we can work with them there, kind of get in there before the big things happen, it can really help. I do some sport with an adults group that's called Living It Up in Bedford. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but that's like a range of disabilities in this group. I really enjoy that group, and we've actually had some really good improvement in just simple motor skills with that group.
Fantastic. And is that also run at your Blues Foundation on Golden Road, or is that out in the community?
So I, yeah, travel externally for that. So they have
Mhm.
a building in Bedford, which I go to each week. But we actually have invited them down to Bedford Blues to just get in the atmosphere, see what it's
Mm,
like. So I'm
mm,
excited for
mm,
that to happen.
mm. Fantastic. And before we go more into your role as a sport inclusion mentor, tell us a bit about yourself, then, please, in terms of your link to rugby. When did you start playing rugby?
Yeah, so I started playing rugby. I must have been about 12 years old.
Hmm.
I started playing like in a boys' team when I first started because there
Wow.
wasn't really any women's rugby available to me. I can't say my experience was very great when I first started playing
Mm,
because I'd never get past the ball, or
mm,
they just assumed because I was a girl that I wasn't good, or I couldn't do
mm,
contact. And then once I got to a certain age, I had to move from the boys' team because you can't then do
mm,
contact with the boys. So I joined a girls rugby team, and from there, like it, I just loved it. I played like county level all growing up
mhm,
till I turned 18, and then I joined a women's team, and now I play in the championship for Old Albanians. So it's
mm.
very highly competitive. We actually won the championship over the
Oh,
weekend. So
congratulations.
thank
Brilliant.
you. Yeah,
Uh,
so we played at Allianz Stadium in Twickenham, and
oh, fantastic.
won the
Uh,
championship. So very happy at the moment.
uh, Brilliant. That is such a wonderful success story there. And now, for any of our young girls listening out there who might think, you know what, I'm quite good at rugby. What are the opportunities for them now? Do they still have to go through a boys kind of a setup before they can access women's rugby, or has that demographic changed?
Yeah, so now women's rugby has grown so much, and obviously this year it's the Women's World Cup and it's being hosted in this country. So it's like
Mm,
even better because it's going to open up so many more opportunities. But there's girls' teams now all the way from under 12s all the way up to eight when you're 18. So sorry, my
no, it's fine. Did you get a bit of a
is
glitch? I
it
had a
is
bit
it
of
still
internet
okay?
interruption as well.
Sorry.
Yes, yes. No, no, it's fine, Lily. We can hear you perfectly.
So I'll restart, sorry. So you can join a girls' rugby team from age 12 all the way up to 18, and that will just be like a girls' only team. And
Mhm,
there's actually competitive leagues.
mhm,
Um, so like it's just it matches the boys really, I think.
mhm,
Um, but also I understand that like just joining a rugby team as a girl can be really overwhelming. And I think there's a bit of a thing around rugby where it's like it's a contact sport, it's aggressive, and I think some girls probably like are a bit scared of that. So it's nothing like that. You wouldn't go to a club and get thrown in and be like, okay, right, so you need to go and tackle all these people now. It's all different levels. It's all like play fun games, things like that. But also, I'd recommend looking at if your school had any after school clubs or anything like that. Most of the time, these probably would be mixed clubs, but from a young age, that's 100% okay. And there'd be coaches like me there, and we would make sure that all women and girls felt included and got involved. So if you are a young girl looking to join rugby, I think just do it. It's really not as scary as you think. And actually, it probably changed my life joining a rugby team and feeling included in that team setting. And I encourage every female in sport to be in a team, and especially rugby. I think it's probably the best sport.
yeah. Wonderful. And so, if a young girl living in Bedfordshire wants to be playing competitive rugby outside school, are there any local clubs that accommodate that in Bedfordshire at all?
Yeah, so there's actually loads. So there's Bedford Junior Blues, which is probably the obvious one. They
Mhm.
have age groups from under 12s up to under 18s. We
Okay.
work pretty closely with them, so I've done a bit
Mhm.
of coaching for them. We do some girls' camps in the half term over at Bedford Blues. Also, Amptill have
Mhm.
a really like quite big ladies' pool there. So
Mhm.
maybe if you're more on the outskirts of Bedford,
Mhm.
Amptill is there. And then there's lots of teams in Hertfordshire, Hitchin, etc.
Mhm.
Like all around, there is girls' teams. Most
And in
men's
Luton?
don't have one. Yeah, so Luton, there's Stockwood Park.
Hmm.
And then Dunstable, I think, have
Hmm.
a girls' team as well. So there's lots
Okay.
around.
Yeah. Excellent. So, listeners, if you just tuned in, you're listening to the Send in the Community Show with me, Hafiz Mohammad Umar, here on Spy 105.1 FM. And in today's show, I am joined by Lily Staniford. Lily is Sport and Inclusion Mentor at Blues Foundation, which is part of her Bedford Blues Rugby Club. And she has been talking about her journey into rugby so far, together with current opportunities for young girls in accessing rugby outside of their school. So lots of local clubs Lily mentioned there in Luton, Stockwood Park, Dunstable also offer opportunities for young girls in rugby. If you're in central Bedfordshire, more around Flitwick, Ampthill area, Ampthill has been mentioned. And then in Bedford, Lily, did you say Bedford Juniors?
Yeah, Bedford Junior Blues.
Bedford Junior Blues can also be contacted for opportunities for young girls from the age of 12 onwards to play competitive rugby. Um, and so, if we move towards your inclusion mentor programs that you run with schools, then Lily, what kind of additional sports do you cover?
So I run my Saturday class, which we just have as the heading name is Ability Blues. So
Mhm.
that is open to anybody in the community. I host it at the John Bunyan Centre in Bedford. And this is like a multi-sports club for anyone with additional needs, physical, mentally. And they come down, we see what sports they like. I bring a couple of rugby balls, chuck them around a bit. Then each week, what I try and do is do like a main sport as like the sport of the week. So we've covered football before, which went down great. We've done cricket, rounders, dodgeball. Dodgeball is very popular. We've done netball, rugby, all kinds of sports. And most of the time, if someone comes up to me and asks to do this sport, we can make it happen.
Fantastic. What time on a Saturday is that?
So it's from 10 to 11 at the John Bunyan Centre, as I said, and it's open to, well, we put the age of 10 to 18-year-olds. However, it's able to be open to really anyone that wants to come along. Obviously, we have to put in that initial age group,
Mhm.
but we've got some 8-year-olds there that get on really well, and I think it's perfect.
Mm. Brilliant. And I think that's what perhaps our listeners will appreciate when it comes to opportunities for special education needs and disabilities, whether it's through sport, art, music, drama, what have you. We try to be as inclusive as we possibly can. Whilst we know the code of practice specifies special education needs and disabilities from 0 to 25, most of us will do our best to make sure anybody attending isn't turned away
Yeah,
without an opportunity. So we will try to include. It's the same with the cricket as well, Lily, at our cricket club. If there are any older people with, when I say older, I mean anybody over the age of 25 who are showing an interest, we will try to include them, whether it's taking part in a separate small group on the side, whether getting them to act as a coach, assistants, or support workers, really trying to get them to contribute and make them feel that they're part of that inclusive offer that we are running for young people. So if you are listening out there thinking, actually, no, I'm over the age of 18 or I'm not quite at 10 or 12 yet, should I go to the Bunny Centre? I'm sure Lily won't have any problem with you attending, and if
no,
anything, you get
definitely
more
not.
out of it. And contact for getting involved. And Lily, do they need to contact you in advance, or do they just turn up on the day? How does that work?
No, so you can just turn up at 10 a.m. at the Bunyan Centre and I'll be greeting you with a great smile because I always love to see new people. If you obviously are a bit wary and you would like more information, You can email me. It's just lily@bluesfoundation.org.uk, and I can give you all additional information. If you wanted to know about support for needs that come down, we can do that via email. But we've got quite a lot of coaches, so just come down and we can get you involved in any way possible, and I can guarantee it'll be really fun.
Fantastic. And is there a cost involved, Lily?
Yeah, so we charge £3 per session. This just covers our coaches. We have casual coaches that come in for that weekend specifically. And then obviously we have to hire the hall, etc. We do
Mhm,
work closely with Bedford Borough Council
mhm,
to try and lower this cost, and
mhm,
we are always working on trying to get grants and things like that to buy
mhm,
new equipment.
mhm.
Um, but I think the £3 obviously just helps us keep it
Yes.
running.
Yeah, brilliant. I think that is perfectly fair. Um, and so, for those individuals who perhaps might demonstrate a particular skill in a given sport, are you then able to signpost them towards that specific sport where they could get involved more regularly?
Yeah, so this actually happens a lot with our outreach programs when they come to us at Bedford Blues. We find that there's a sport that these children are really interested in or really actually talented in, and they just haven't ever been pointed in the right direction, or no one's really given them the time of day to be like, you are actually really talented at the sport and you should take it further. So obviously, it being Bedford Blues, we have a lot of rugby contacts, a lot of specific rugby coaches. So if we pick up on anyone that is really talented at rugby or just looks like they would really enjoy that external club, we have all the contacts for rugby. We can also provide that additional coaching. But other sports, I do know of local football clubs, I know of local cricket clubs, things like that, that I can point people in the right direction. Obviously, in this community, everybody's got connections and things like that. So it's not something that we would struggle with if it came to someone was asking for a club or they wanted to take their sport further. We could definitely help them with that.
Brilliant. So let's just go back a little, Lily, if you may, please, to what you were saying earlier about your offer to schools. So what does a typical primary school project look like then?
So it would be like a run of PE lessons, most likely. So either like 6 weeks of PE lessons or 12 weeks of PE lessons. What we'll do is we'll just go into that school and almost just like take over that PE lesson. Most of the time it is rugby. Um, but if it was SEND specific, I could do multi sports, but most of the time, yeah, when we're going into schools, it's like a 6 week rugby program or a 12 week rugby program. A lot of the time, we go and just do girls' PE lessons to try and get more girls into rugby. That's a big thing that we're driving at Bedford Blues at the moment, especially with the run up to the World Cup. Like I said, we're really
Mm,
trying to get as many girls into rugby and actually let girls know how accessible rugby actually is for them.
mm. And for the benefit, excuse me, for the benefit of our listeners, I am also browsing the Blues Foundation website as well, which is at www.bluesfoundation.org.uk /primary. That's where the primary school projects are. And if you want to be reading this on in your own leisure, please have a look at this and browse through yourselves as well. And I see that your excellent work is beyond just PE as well. So you do rugby and reading and rugby and numbers as well.
Yeah, so any like they're more of our outreach or alternative provisions. So there's you can incorporate rugby into many different things, educational as well, and that's kind of what we specialize in with our work is just using sport and rugby to almost have an educational purpose as well. It's teaching kids how to manage their anger, things like that. You can do that through rugby, teaching children how to just simply count and identify colours at such a young age. You can do that with rugby balls, different coloured rugby balls, things like that. So, and actually, children just take onto this so much better than if they're sat in a classroom and you're just talking at them, especially when it's with undiagnosed autism or ADHD, especially at a young age. There's lots of children that are undiagnosed, so they don't really understand what's going on themselves. The teachers don't really understand, and it's no one's fault, but it's just unfortunately how it is. So then when you bring in this alternative provision and you have a slightly different approach to learning, a slightly different approach to life skills, they really take onto it well, and it's really beautiful to see how different they are and how much it changes them.
Mm, most definitely. And is there a cost involved to the schools for these opportunities?
Sorry, what was that?
Is there a cost involved for the schools?
So some schools there is a cost, some schools there isn't. So it all depends on our funding. So
Mhm.
we're a charity and we're completely self-funded. So unfortunately we don't we can't just provide everything.
Mm,
However, we get a lot of funds, grants, things like that. We can
mhm,
propose things to different people that sponsor. If we propose a different program and they like it, most of the time they get behind it and then we get that funded so we can actually provide it for free. A lot of our girls coaching and things like that is funded by England Rugby because there's a really big push right now on getting women into sport and getting girls into rugby, things like that. Like I said, our Ability Blues is we work closely with the council, so a lot of that is made cheaper and things like that, just to make it more accessible to everybody.
mhm. Brilliant. And then the match the experience.
Yes.
How does that look like for a young person who might be keen on having that experience?
So the match day experience is like a kind of guard of honor situation. So our apprentice Tom Bailey, he runs that and he's really great at it. What we'll do is we'll get like a group of children or really anyone that wants to do it. They'll come and have a rugby session on the back training field. And then they'll get to come and be the guard of honor. They'll have the flags while the team run out. We actually just had the foundation day recently, so it was like basically that, but times 10, so on a massive scale. So we had like three different teams that were touring at the time. We did a massive rugby session on the backfield, and then we had people with flags all around the pitch. And we also managed to get one of the really big flags into the middle of the pitch. With the children holding that. So that was really great experience. And obviously for us, it gets our name out there because Bedford Blues are looking at getting around 3,000 fans to every game. So you've got to think there's 3,000 people that are now seeing the foundation, able to donate to the foundation. But also, it's an experience for these children that they're probably never going to forget. Being able to walk onto that pitch and when the players are running out, and lots of these players they look up to, and next
Mhm.
minute they're running past them. So, it's a great experience. Um, Anybody that wants to get involved in that is there's contacts on the website. You can get teams down. We usually have full rugby teams or full schools at once, so they'll come as a group. Um, but definitely looking into next season, we're looking for people that want to get involved in that.
Brilliant. And your free tag rugby taster sessions, um, how do they work and what do they include?
So when we give school taster sessions, I will most of the time contact a school. Um, Obviously, I'm trying to work in SEND schools a little bit more and give those opportunities out. I know there's a new SEND school that's actually opened up near Bedford Blues. We're trying to get in there at the moment, but everything's obviously they've just opened up, so we don't want to go straight in there. But we'll just provide like a rugby taster session or a multi-sports taster session, see what works for them, and then if they like it, we can then point them on to Ability Blues on the Saturday morning, or we can then provide a 6 week run of sessions or whatever would work for them.
Excellent. Um, well, Lily, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise with us. We are into the final minute of this show now. Any last few words of advice for young people who might be unsure about their rugby and whether they should take it out or not?
So I just definitely think if you're thinking about it, just give it go because it could really change your life. If you have additional needs as well, like there's so many things out there, and you will get on really well. And I think just even the social skills that it would provide you with, as well as physical skills, it's really life changing. And I just think just go along, see how it is, and give it a go.
Brilliant. Thank you once again, listeners. That was Lily Staniford, Sport and Inclusion Mentor at Blues Foundation, talking to me about her excellent work that she's doing throughout Bedford around rugby and inclusion for other sports as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please join us after the break for